Let's proceed now with the logic for the authorization over the seller resource. Basically, what a user can do when it is related with a seller. Again, basically the logic is the same. We are going to verify that the user that is performing the request, that basically means that the user that belongs or owns, in fact, the access token is the same user specified in the URL. That is only the logic that we are going to use, but of course, you can use all the other conditions and restrictions that you need. So, let's create a seller policy. Again, the name is going to be seller policy and the name of the model is seller. Let's create it. And after that, we should have, again, in the policies folder, a new policy called seller policy. We are going to restrict several possibilities here. Again, we are going to use the same condition, but of course, you can use other conditions if you need. So, we have view, we are going to have sale to check when a user can sell something. Then we have edit product, when a user can update a product. And finally, delete a product, when a user can delete a product. The logic is going to be exactly the same in those four methods. So you may be wondering why we are repeating this condition everywhere. And we don't have to do that. In fact, we should basically create a trait or inherit for a super policy or something like that with a method that we are going to call every time, and that is going to be exactly one line. So we are not going to save any quantity of lines. And additionally, this is going to give us the possibility to customize every single action, every single method in the way as we need in the future. So we are not gaining anything refactoring the code, but we are gaining a lot in maintainability if we keep repeating this single line on every method and allowing the possibility to customize every one in a single way. So again, we are going to return in every one of those methods if the user ID is the same as the seller ID. Before to finish, let's add the second parameter here. And remember that this must be an instance of user because it's possibly the first sale of this seller. So at that moment it's not yet a seller. So remember that we're still receiving an instance of user instead of an instance of seller. This is going to give us a little problem, but it is going to be solved when we implemented the user policy. Once we have this ready, we just need to register our new policy in the auth service provider. So here we have seller, and please remember to import the definition of seller and seller policy. Once we have this, we just need to go and protect every possible action that we need. Of course, remember that there are some actions that we are not going to protect yet because it's going to be a little difficult or different, in fact, depending on the admin's user or not, and there are going to be any other that are going to be basically publicly accessible. Let's go to seller category controller. Seller buyer controller is a special case, and there we are going to use the can middleware. Again, we are going to use the view action, and the name of the resource in this case is seller. Remember that this is going to be resolved in the same way as it is resolved here using the implicit model binding. We are going to apply this only from the index method, and we are going to proceed similarly in the other controllers. So let's continue with the seller controller. Again, we are going to apply this only on the show method. Let's proceed with seller transaction controller. This time it is going to be applied over the index method, in fact it's the unique method. And finally, but not less important, we are going to proceed with seller product controller. Here we have several options. We can show the products, create a product, edit a product, and remove a product. So you probably are guessing good. we are going to use the other possible actions that we are restricting in our seller policy. So we have that the seller can view only on the index method. Then can only sell using this store method. Remember, the restriction that we are applying here is that only can sell if the user ID is the same as the seller ID. In other case, it's not going to be possible. Then we are going to apply this to edit product. And here is a difference. If you check here, the name of the method is edit product in this way, using capital letters to separate the words. But here, we are using a dash to separate the words. And Laravel automatically do that. Just be sure that you are using this and not this. It's just to keep the good practices in the code style. So, remember, the edit product is going to be applied only for the update method. And finally, we have delete product. We have the same exactly with the name of the method, and this is going to be applied only over the destroy method. Once we have this, we are going to be able to proceed and verify. So let's go to Postman, and there we just need to send an access token. Please remember to provide the required scopes for the access token, and of course that it is a valid access token. So again, this access token belongs to the user with ID 629. That means if I try to obtain the details about the seller, I'm going to be allowed, but if I try with a different ID, I'm going to have a 403 response as expected. The same if I try to obtain the products, for example. But if I change the ID for the original ID for the user that created this access token, this is going to work. Let's continue in the next class to see a little more details and of course to restrict the authorizations over any other resource.